أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله وسلم عليك يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The season of Ashura represents a season of reform and change. And the nightly vigils that are held during the first 10 days or so are an invitation to do just that, to reform ourselves and to change ourselves, to make what they call today New Year's resolutions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet Musa in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. That surely we have sent Musa, بِآيَاتِنَا, with our signs, with the miracles that he carried with him. And we commanded him to rise his people from darkness into light and to remind them of the days of Allah. وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. And what are ayyamullah? What are the days of God? Some commentators have said that it is a reminder to them of their victory. The day that God brought victory onto them, Banu Israel, the people of Moses. Some have suggested, no, it is the days that they were challenged. Not the days of victory, but the days of challenge. In general, the days of God are days in which we remember the principles of God. And what better days to remember and remind ourselves the principles of God than the days of Muharram, the day of Ashura. Obviously, now that we look in retrospect 1400 years ago, everyone agrees that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was successful in his mission. He was successful in his cause. But what is success? What are the keys to success? Who is considered successful? The Quran tells us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, that verily those who achieve falah, success, are the mu'minun, the believers. So it's your belief, not your status or your position in society, or how much money you have, or how many followers you have on social media, or how many likes that you get. It's your iman, your faith, your belief. And belief is of two kinds. There is belief in that which is seen, that which is felt, that which is tangible, accessible. And then there is belief in the unseen. This is why God is referred to as Alim al-Ghaybi wa-Shahada. And think about it. He is not referred to as the God of the seen and the unseen. The God of the unseen and the seen. Not Alim al-Shahadati wal-Ghayb. Alim al-Ghaybi wa-Shahada. Because the world of the unseen is much greater than the world of the seen, what exists. If you look at our entire universe, scientists, astronomers tell us that everything that is solid in our universe, everything that we can see, our planets, the stars, the comets, all of that stuff, all of that tangible stuff, represents only 3% of the known universe. 3%. The rest is comprised of what? Dark energy and dark matter. And they call it dark for a reason. It's because they don't really know much about it. They know that, for instance, dark energy is what allows our universe to expand. Our universe is continuously expanding, and as it expands, it accelerates, meaning that it picks up speed. And the Quran tells us, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ, that we constructed these heavens, this world, this universe, everything in it, and surely we are expanding it. It is in a state of expansion. But what causes that expansion is something which is unseen. We cannot manifest dark matter or dark energy, at least not yet. Everything that you see, the billions of stars or trillions of stars, all of it represents only 3%, that which is tangible. Likewise, the belief in the unseen outweighs the belief in that which is seen. And that's why the Quran is sent as a guidance. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Al-Muttaqun, some describe Al-Muttaqun as the pious or the reverent, are the ones that, number one, the first criteria is that they believe in Alam al-Ghayb, the world of the unseen. Because when you're faced with a calamity, when you're faced with a catastrophe, when you're faced with a challenge, like the challenge that Al-Imam Sayyid al-Shuhada Abi Abdullah al-Hussein was faced with, you need strength from the world of the unseen. When everything around you looks like it's not working for you, when everything around you in this world looks like it's not going in your favor, that's when you need to begin to draw strength from the world of the unseen. Sometimes we find ourselves in that sort of situation. Success, looking in retrospect, when we talk about Imam Hussein being successful, success also leaves clues. They say that success leaves clues. There's a trail. There's a path. The opposite is also true. And it's no coincidence that the Prophet Musa is mentioned by name the most out of any prophet in the Quran. And his story is repeated throughout all of the major verses, throughout all of the major chapters. And there's a reason behind that. It's not a coincidence. That was intentional. Delivered to the Muslim Ummah, that message. Al-Imam al-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, he narrates, he says that after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away and after people turned away from the Ahlul Bayt, there was a handful of supporters. Among those early supporters was Salman al-Muhammadi. And this is in the narration. Salman stood to the people and he spoke to them. He addressed them. Because Salman was a person of knowledge, not just knowledge of what was apparent, but he had knowledge of the unseen. The Prophet had informed him of certain secrets. So he was considered one of the elite companions of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. One of the khawas, the elite companions. So he stood in front of the people. He said, "O people, if you know me, you know me. If you don't know me, this is who I am." And he said that since you have chosen, in short, he said, since you have chosen the sunnah of Banu Israel, since you have chosen their practice and their path, then you will follow in their footsteps. حَذْوَ النَّعْلِ بِالنَّعْلِ وَالْقُدَّةِ بِالْقُدَّةِ. Step by step, inch by inch. When you choose a person's lifestyle, when you choose a person's habit, when you choose a person's sunnah, their practice, you also choose their destination. So look at the people, examine the people that you're imitating, that you're idolizing, that you're following. Every step that they take and every move that they make and every product that they endorse and everything that they say. If you're following that religiously and you're idolizing it, you're going to end in the same destination as them, step by step, inch by inch. So the story of Banu Israel and the people of Moses in the Quran it's delivered with intentionality. Because Salman says to the Muslim Ummah that since you have adopted their sunnah, you will follow in their footsteps step by step and inch by inch. Success is found where? Success is found in principles, when you stand on principle. This is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam taught us. And principles reflect absolute truths. What does that mean? There are certain truths in this world that they don't change no matter what. No matter if you're in North America, South America, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Antarctica, Australia. These are absolute truths that do not change. Whether you're in the 21st century, you're the 30th century, or the 7th century, or anything in between. They never change. And principles which reflect absolute truths, their source is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever endeavor that you have, whatever mission that you have, whatever cause that you have, if it's rooted in principle and if it's reflected by absolute truths, then it is bound to succeed. It is bound to be victorious. If not in the short run, if not in the short term, then in the long term. So for instance, when we talk about absolute truths or foundational truths, we talk about honesty as being a principle to live by. Sometimes you may think that honesty, it's not going to benefit me in the short term. I have to, for instance, tell a white lie. But in reality, honesty will always benefit you in the long term. Putting people first, this is also a principle that reflects an absolute truth. It may not benefit you in the short term, but in the long term, it will benefit you. So if you're running a business, sometimes you think, well, I have to make money, so I have to put money first. But when you put money before people's interests, it will benefit you in the short term, but it's not going to benefit you in the long term. Every single statement that Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, every step that he took, every gesture, everything reflected principles. Principles directly revealed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Quran tells us, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. That when it comes to victory, when it comes to success, we will, Allah says, it is our will, وَنُرِيدُ, it is from His irada, from His desire, that we bestow upon those who have been oppressed. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. We grant them leadership, وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ, and they shall also be the heirs. Meaning that those people who are oppressed, those people who suffer, those people who in this world it seems like the odds are against them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it is our desire to see them succeed in this world. Sometimes you feel like the entire world is against you, that nothing is going your way, that nothing is happening the way that you envision it, that nothing is right. God says that if you're in that state and you're truly oppressed and you're lost and you feel like you have no support, you feel like you have no one to turn to, God says that it is His desire that one day your time shall come. Every single person, their time shall come. So that when it comes to hisab, yawmul hisab, when it comes to accountability, nobody can say that I did not have any power throughout my entire life. And if that truly was the case, then they're not held accountable and they're not held liable. So there's 4 principles that I want to share with you. 4 short principles. And this comes from a book on relationships called Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. And it's about how to maintain a healthy marriage. But when you look at these rules, they reflect principles of interaction, interpersonal relations, how to treat people, how to deal with people. So the first rule and the first law says that when one of you makes a mistake, control any anger you may feel and trust God completely no matter what happens. Sometimes when you share with someone in an interaction or in a relationship, as human beings, none of us are perfect. Which one of us is perfect? Which person can raise their hand right now and say, I'm perfect. I've never made a flaw. I've never made a mistake. If you have, please tell us, so that we can listen to you and take notes and all of us can learn. But we are human beings. We are affected by emotions such as anger. It says, when one of you makes a mistake, control any anger that you may feel. I mentioned the hadith the other day about anger. That says, Al-ghadab jamratu shaytan tuqadu fi qalb ibn Adam. That anger, it's like a burning piece of charcoal that sits in the heart of Banu Adam. It burns in the heart. And think about what Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to go through. There was plenty that Imam Hussein could have been angry about, that he could have been furious and emotional and resentful and spiteful. You know, when we go through the roller coaster of life and the roller coaster of emotions, we tend to ask ourselves the question, why me? Why not somebody else? Don't you think Imam Hussein alayhi salam could have asked the question, why me? Is he not the grandson of Rasulullah? Is he not the family that has been chosen? Chosen meaning to serve humanity? Is he not from the family that the Quran describes as في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه? In homes that have been exalted, in homes where the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the remembrance of God is frequent, it doesn't stop, it's continuous. Could not Imam Hussein alayhi salam say, God, why'd you have to pick me? Why couldn't you pick somebody else for this? He could have. There was plenty to be furious at. There was plenty to be frustrated at. Imagine the people, as Imam Hussein was leaving Medina to Mecca and then to Karbala, imagine the people that joined the caravan and then left the caravan. They joined out of interest, and then when they realized that there's a battle ahead, they quit. They turned on their heels. They got cold feet. They went back to their family. If you're part of a project, or you've been involved in leadership and people start to drop and people start to quit, doesn't that become frustrating? Don't you hold sometimes anger and resentment towards them on the inside? And this was a chance to stand up for what was right. Imam Hussein could have been spiteful. He could have been hateful. He could have had a nasty attitude towards them. But what did he do? He continued to pray for them. The Quran tells us how to treat people when the shaitan tries to prick us and turn us against people. خُذِ الْعَفْوَ وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. That hold to forgiveness. So if someone asks you for forgiveness, you're ready and you are in the state to grant them forgiveness. وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ. And continue to command to what is right despite your circumstances. وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. You will also have in this situation people who are jahil. And jahil, by the way, when we talk about jahl is not just ignorance. Jahl, when we say jahiliyyah, asr al-jahiliyyah, the people of jahiliyyah were not just people who were ignorant. The original meaning of the word jahl in the Arabic language is to be rabid and confrontational. When you can get in someone's face, to be rabid, to be hot-tempered, which in fact was seen in certain circles in Arabia. It was seen as something which was noble and honorable, if you can do that. Because think about it, you're out in the desert, you gotta protect your own, and so you had to really be tough. So the Quran says, وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Sometimes you have people not just ignorant, but they're rabid and confrontational, and they'll get in your face and they just want to fight you no matter what, even if you've done nothing to them. Think about, had Imam Hussein hurt any of these people? Had he blocked them from receiving their stipend, their taxes? What did he do? What was his then? There were people that they wanted to fight. No matter what, they wanted to fight. وَإِمَّا يَنزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْغٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And if the shaitan comes and tries to prick you, poke you sometimes, he's there trying to poke you and turn you against people. فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. Turn to Allah. إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. God is hearing all of this. He's watching all of this. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. That those who are truly reverent, when they find themselves in that situation, they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have basira. Basira meaning not just sight, not just physical sight. So basar is the sight of the eyes, when you can see with your eyes. Basira is vision, sight of the heart. They have vision. They can see beyond this lame stuff that happens between people. And the Quran says another group of people, the more the shaitan pushes them, the more they dive into jahl, the more they dive into ignorance, the more they dive into evil and to wrongdoing. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam could have been angry. And he knew some of these people were ignorant. And so for the people that were ignorant, he prayed for them. He said, "Oh Allah, forgive these people, for they don't know." Some of the people they knew exactly what they were doing. And Imam Hussein made it clear in a way. He made it so clear that there wouldn't be an excuse for anybody. This is how clear he made it. So this is number one. Turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two is depend on God, not your mate, to meet all of your needs. Sometimes we depend on other people to give us only what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give us. In psychology, they refer to this as attachment theory. And children have a secure attachment versus insecure attachment. And adults, if this is not dealt with at a young age, if there's insecure attachment, it can carry on into adulthood. So adults can also have secure attachment and insecure attachments to other people around them. And it can be devastating to relationships if it's not dealt with at a young age. Sometimes even when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some people have secure attachment. So an example of secure attachment is when you think positive of yourself and you think positive of the other person. So when it comes to our relationship with God, we can have secure attachment and we can also have insecure attachment. Secure attachment is when you turn to Allah in all affairs, no matter what. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's moderate. Insecure attachment, an example of that, is when we turn to God only when things are not going our way. And even then, God keeps His doors open for us. God keeps the door open. This is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam taught Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Because he was concerned that he had done too much damage. He had done too much evil that could not be reversed. And the Imam assured him that as long as you are sincere in your forgiveness, sincere in asking for forgiveness, sincere in your repentance, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept from you. And this is why in the Quran, this is beautifully described by the example of the Prophet Yaqub, when he said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. After years of not receiving news from his son, his long lost beloved son Yusuf, and his sons came to him and they gave him the news and they saw him weeping. The Quran says he wept almost till he lost his eyesight. وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. He almost lost his eyesight because he wept so much. And so when his sons saw him in that state, they became cynical. They said, you know what, you're you're just going to continue to weep over that son until the rest of your life. And they started mocking him. This is when he realized that even his own sons he could not express his grief to. So he said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I will only speak of my sorrow and grief to God. Because even sometimes your closest family members and the people that are closest to you, they don't understand what's going on inside your heart. That's the moment where you need to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the Imam says in his dua, رَغْبَةً إِلَيْكَ مِنِّي عَمَّنْ سِوَاكَ. That I brought my misfortunes to you. I brought the calamities, my issues, I brought my challenges to you. I didn't bring them to anyone else. Because I knew nobody else was able to provide me a solution except for you. Number 3, the third principle is trust in God when the whys of life threaten to overwhelm you. We always have the question of why, and that always threatens to overwhelm us. Why this is happening to us, I mentioned. Why, and if only I had a bigger paycheck, or if only I had parents that can understand me better, or if only this and if only that. So when those whys, and you don't know why the things that are happening to you, why they're happening, you trust God completely in that stage. The Quran reminds us, it says, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Those people that remember God when they are standing, when they are sitting, and when they are on their side, when they are laying down. People that are constantly remembering God. And when they remember God, the Quran speaks on their behalf. They say, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Oh Lord, you didn't create all of this in vain. Meaning that you did not create this world or me without a purpose. There definitely has to be a purpose. There definitely has to be some sort of meaning in life. The challenge is that I haven't discovered it yet. I don't know what it is. So they say that when people begin to stress about the day-to-day activities, there's a number of studies, and some dispute this, but there are studies that have recorded this. We all know that the leading killer, at least here in the United States, is what? People, if they go online, they search for cancer and how prevalent cancer is. But something is more prevalent than cancer. What is it? Does anyone know? Any of the physicians? Stress is a symptom of something. Heart disease. Heart disease is the leading killer. Stress is part of heart disease. So stress can be a killer when we worry about the things that the hows and the whats of life, or sometimes even the whys of life. They say that one of the times that is most when the most amount of heart attacks happen are in the morning between 6 a.m. and noon. That's the time of day. And when it comes to the time of week, it's Monday mornings, when people are stressing about going back to work. That's the time when here in the United States the most amount of heart attacks happen, because people are stressing. And stress can truly be a killer. And there's ways to get rid of stress and manage stress. We all need to learn about that. Maintaining a balanced lifestyle when it comes to the food that you eat, your exercise, that all helps defeat stress and defeat the symptoms of stress. And do you think that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was not stressed and he was happy about what was going on and he was excited and joyful? He was joyful knowing that this was the command of God, but he wasn't necessarily happy about what was happening. He wasn't necessarily excited and enthusiastic about what was going to happen. And that's why I mentioned the hadith yesterday, the exchange between him and his son Ali al-Akbar on the way to Karbala, when Ali al-Akbar noticed that his father was dozing off. He was falling asleep and waking up, and it seemed that there was a lot on his mind and he was overwhelmed. And he kept saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So Ali al-Akbar, he asks him, he says, what is it that you are saying that for? Are we not on the path of truth? Are we not going towards victory? He says, absolutely yes. The son reminds the father. So sometimes thinking about the path in front of us can become very, very stressful, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is number 3. And number 4, remember that life is not about the two of you and your marriage. It's first about your commitment to JC, he says Jesus Christ, we'll say God, and doing everything you do for him. It's not about you. It's not about your problems. And nobody in this world really owes you anything if you have problems or if you don't have problems. It's about your commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's first and foremost. Everything else is secondary. Your primary focus is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say, my prayer, salati, wa nusuki, meaning my rights, wa mahyaya, my life, wa mamati, my death, all of that is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything revolves around the center, and that is Him. So sometimes we think our value is based on the validation of other people. It's not about other people. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet in the Quran, وَتُخْفِي فِي نَفْسِكَ مَا اللَّهُ مُبْدِيهِ وَتَخْشَى النَّاسَ وَاللَّهُ أَحَقُّ أَن تَخْشَاهُ. That, Ya Rasulullah, you keep within yourself, hidden within, what God has made apparent. And you're afraid of people when in reality you should be afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the judgment of people. وَتَخْشَى النَّاسَ وَاللَّهُ أَحَقُّ أَن تَخْشَاهُ. Ask yourself, should I be afraid of people, of the judgment of people? Or should I concern myself with the day of judgment when I stand in front of the real judge, the real hakam, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Hussein understood that reality. And this is why his attitude, he kept repeating, خُذْ حَتَّى تَرْضَى. Oh Allah, take until you're satisfied. Anything that God took from him on that day, he said, take until you're satisfied. There was not once where he said, okay, that's it, I've reached the threshold of pain. I've reached the threshold, God, please, no more, this is too painful. Not one person records this at all. It was the opposite. He kept saying, take more, O Allah, if this is what satisfies you. Seeing every single one of his family members go out into the battlefield one by one. Don't you think this was painful for the heart of the Imam? When he saw Ali al-Akbar go out into the battlefield? Sometimes when we see our children fall and trip over, there's a hadith. It says that one day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He was speaking, he was on the minbar, on the pulpit, and he was speaking to his people. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam was very young at that time, maybe around 4 or 5 years old. And he walked into the masjid. And he was walking around, and the hadith says he tripped over his own clothes. Have you seen sometimes children trip over their own clothes? And he fell. And within an instant, the Prophet came down from the minbar. Right away, he came from the pulpit. And he went and he held his son and he embraced his son. Just because he fell over. Imagine the heart of Imam Hussein alayhi salam as he saw his children, as he saw his nephews, as he saw his brothers go out into the battlefield. It was more than overwhelming. There's no true word to describe the emotions in the heart of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on that day. Some of the things that Imam Hussein alayhi salam noticed in people, and I'll wrap up with this. You realize from his statements, one of his statements, he says the following. He says, إِنَّ النَّاسَ عَبِيدُ الدُّنْيَا وَالدِّينُ لَعِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. He said that people, the majority of people, they're slaves of this world. They're slaves of this dunya. And God forbid we ever become abidud dunya, that we become slaves to this world. This is a time for us to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protects us, He protects our families, our communities, our societies from falling into the trap of being abidud dunya. وَالدِّينُ لَعِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. He says that their deen, their religion is like the spit and the saliva that's in their mouth. It's something that's just, it's there, it's in their mouth. They speak it, but they don't practice it. فَإِذَا مُحِّصُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. When people are put under trial and tribulation, the true faithful, they decrease in number. All of a sudden, they decrease. And he saw this firsthand. People who in front of him were chasing the dunya. And he kept warning them, stop chasing the dunya. Be free, people. The dunya is not going to give you what you're looking for. And truly, those people that were chasing the dunya, they lost their dunya and their akhirah, both of them. People like Umar ibn Sa'ad, who was there. And some narrations even describe him as he was ordering the killing of Imam Hussein, the beheading, that tears were coming down his own face. So consciously he knew that what he was doing was wrong, but he was there because they had promised him that he would be the governor of Ar-Ray, a small little city. And what happened after that? He became the governor. But do you think that the people let him off the hook? Publicly, he could not even go out into the streets because people resented him for what he did. Only a few years later, Al-Mukhtar bin Abi Ubayd al-Thaqafi, one of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, who Muslim ibn Aqil, the ambassador of Imam Hussein, when he first arrives to Kufa, he stays at his home. When the Battle of Karbala was happening, he was in jail in Kufa. But he left the prison, he left the jail, and he went to work. And he found Umar ibn Sa'ad, who was his own brother-in-law. He found Shibr ibn Dil-Jawshan, the man who executed the Imam. He found Harmalat ibn Kahil, the one who shot the arrow into the neck of Abdullah al-Radi and shot the arrow into the chest of Imam Hussein. He found Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, the commander of, the governor of Kufa, one by one. And he executed them. In the most gruesome ways he executed them. This man, Al-Mukhtar. He avenged the deaths that took place on the day of Ashura. So they ran after this dunya, but in reality, there was nothing behind it. This is what happens when we run after the dunya. You grasp it and you realize that it's empty on the inside. There's nothing that it really offers. So you end up losing the dunya and you lose the akhirah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam also said, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا تَغَيَّرَتْ وَتَنَكَّرَتْ. Imagine, this is the person who witnessed the Islamic community grow and prosper and thrive under the leadership of his own grandfather. So 50 years later, he says that this world, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا تَغَيَّرَتْ وَتَنَكَّرَتْ. It's changed, not in a positive way, it's changed in a very negative way. It's changed drastically. He says, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنَّ الْحَقَّ لَا يُعْمَلَ بِهِ وَالْبَاطِلَ لَا يُتَنَاهَى عَنْهُ. Don't you see the irony? Don't you see what's going on? All it took was 50 years that instead of people enjoining good and forbidding evil, people are now enjoining and encouraging evil and forbidding that which is good. Completely changed. Not 1,000 years, but only within 50 years. This is why he says, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا تَغَيَّرَتْ وَتَنَكَّرَتْ. And the Prophet had seen many years earlier a dream, narrations tell us, that he had seen monkeys dancing on the pulpit, on the minbar. And it took less than 50 years for monkeys to start dancing on the pulpit of Rasulullah and to change everything. Less than 50 years. It was before Yazid and before Muawiyah as well. So this is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam, this is the challenge that he had to face. For him, it was not something that was just physical. Yes, absolutely, there was a physical fight and there was physical pain. But the pain that Imam Hussein alayhi salam saw and he witnessed was not just physical. It went to the core, the conscious, the spirit of everything that he stood for. And this is why he said that if it requires for the swords to take me, if it requires my life, فَيَا سُيُوفُ خُدِينِ. Because even though the physical pain is significant, but it's nothing in comparison to the spiritual and the emotional pain that's caused when you see Islam being flipped over on its head. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura kept sending his companions and then his family members one by one. He didn't send them all out. Perhaps there would be a change of heart. Perhaps there would be one person who would change everything. Perhaps there was a chance for these people to redeem themselves. Perhaps there was a chance for these people to not follow through with it completely. Imam Hussein alayhi salam kept giving them chances, kept giving them reminders. But in the end, after all of the family members had gone out into the battlefield and all of the companions, narrations mentioned there were a couple of companions that survived, or people that accompanied Imam Hussein, that were not there for the sake of battle, that they survived. They were there to witness. But everyone who was willing to fight went out into the battlefield. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam prepared himself during the final moments. And this was the part that shook the conscience of the community. That it shook the community to the core, so that even the enemy army, the army of Umar ibn Sa'd, began to question their conscience and began to question their motives. And that is when he took his 6-month boy, Abdullah al-Radi', out into the battlefield. And finally he was preparing himself to go out one last time. He began to call to the women. He began to call to his sister Zainab, his wives. Ya Zainab, wa ya Ruqayya, wa ya Kulthum, wa ya Rabab, alaykunna minni salam. He began to send his salam to them. And his sister Zainab turned to him. Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, one final request. She brought to him his son Abdullah al-Radi'. And Abdullah al-Radi', his mother was Al-Rabab bint Umru' al-Qais. She was the daughter of a very noble man who had converted to Islam from Christianity during the time of the second Khalifa. And in order to forge the alliances between him and the Muslim community, he married two of his daughters. One was Salma to Al-Imam al-Hasan, and Al-Rabab to Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. She bore him 2 children. One was Sukayna, his daughter Sukayna, and the other was Abdullah al-Radi', who was 6 months old. But because Al-Rabab, who was a nursing mother, because she did not have water to drink, therefore she could not provide milk for her infant. And her infant did not have any water, was suffering from thirst. His color had completely changed. But out of embarrassment, she could not bring him directly to the father. So Zainab alayhi salam, she took him. She said, "My dear brother, take him out into the battlefield. Perhaps their hearts will soften. Perhaps they will have a change of heart when they see a 6-month-old. So Imam Hussein took him out to the battlefield. And he was wrapped in the traditional way that a child is wrapped in a cloth. But because he was so weak from the thirst, he could not even move. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam took him out into the battlefield. He said to the people, "O people, if we are sinners, and if you consider me a sinner, and you want to prevent me from drinking water, that is understandable. But what is the sin of a 6-month-old baby? Can you tell me what is his sin? What is his sin that you prevent him from the water that you allow even the animals to drink from?" At that moment, this was one of the pinnacles of the day. This was one of the crucial points of the day, where the soldiers began to turn to one another. They thought to themselves, what he is saying is true. Some of them were fathers, some of them themselves, they had children, they had babies. What he is saying is true. If we're fighting him because of his rebellion, what is the sin of a 6-month-old? This 6-month-old has not held a sword against us. He is not fighting against us. So they began to debate amongst themselves. A number of them said, let's give him water. A number of them said, do not give him water. At that point, Ya mu'mineen, Umar ibn Sa'ad, he turned to Harmalat ibn Kahil, who was an expert archer. He said to him, Ya Harmala, iqta' niza' al-qawm. He said, oh Harmala, he said, I want you to end the discussion. Do something that will end the discussion. No one will speak of this again. Harmalat ibn Kahil, the narration says that he placed the arrow inside the bow. He drew it back and he was waiting for the perfect opportunity. At that moment, the cloth that was covering the neck of Abdullah al-Radi, it came exposed. It exposed his neck. He says that his neck was like shining silver in front of me. So he placed the arrow in the bow, he pulled it back and he shot the arrow towards Imam Hussein. It fell straight into the neck of Abdullah al-Radi. وَذَبَحَهُ مِنَ الْوَرِيدِ إِلَى الْوَرِيدِ. At that moment, Abdullah was not moving, but when he felt the heat of the arrow go inside his neck, he removed his arms from the cloth. The narration says that he began to turn left and right like a bird which is slaughtered. Imam Hussein alayhi salam took some of that blood, he threw it towards the sky, and Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says that not one single drop came back to the earth. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He turned back to the camp with his baby now in his hands, slaughtered by the arrow. Sukayna alayhi salam comes running out. Oh dear father, please give me good news. Please tell me that they have given my brother water and there is some left over for us. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was embarrassed. He presented the child to her. She saw the state that he was in. Narrations tell us that Imam Hussein went behind the tent and he dug a very small grave. He placed Abdullah al-Radi in that grave. He buried him, and as he was turning around, he heard a voice from the heavens called, Da'hu ya Hussein, فَإِنَّ لَهُ مُرْضَعَةً فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Leave him, O Hussein. He has a nurse that is waiting for him in heaven. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك قاضي الحاجات إنك على كل شيء قدير برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.